Hey guys, what's going on? My name's Adam, and thank you for spending a couple minutes with me today. So today we're going to be talking about NAT and tanker stocks in general. And I read a really interesting article, which I encourage you to read. And of course, as we know, both Euronav and Scorpio Tankers, two of the largest tankers out there, reported earnings on Thursday, basically August 6th. And basically, what they were saying that tanker markets change quickly in the COVID era, but what matters in quarterly reports is what executives say about the present and future, and not what they say about quarter ending over a month ago. Although for both of these companies, as we'll see, their earnings were really good. Um, so two key lessons from the investor relations from the last quarterly report was that floating storage is coming down from its peak, and faster for refined products than for crude oil. And as you know, NAT carries crude oil, so does VLCC. Scorpio Tankers, I think, has a mix of crude and clean, although I'm not too sure about that. And then second, the medium-term vessel supply picture looks increasingly attractive. Okay, so floating storage demand spurred a rate boom in the first half of the quarter, but then after charters unloaded their storage, tankers re-enter the spot market. Basically, they have to um, sell out their tankers at the pre-existing spot market price, which is usually pretty low or is much lower than it was in the first quarter and second quarter of 2020. And so Euronav, the CEO, expected that the floating storage party to last longer than it did. So a number of very large crude carriers, which carry 2 million barrels of crude, while Suezmax vessels carry 1 million barrels of crude, were and still are being used as storage units, but far fewer than what many analysts and we have predicted, conceded the Euronav CEO. Okay, so basically what that means is that there's more tankers now on the open market, and because tankers um, operate in sort of the commodity market of supply and demand. Basically, when more tankers enter the market, the price to put oil on those tankers is going to decrease, right? So crude floating storage peaked at around 200 million barrels in May, and about half was aboard VLCCs. The other half was aboard on smaller tankers such as Suezmax vessels. Yurnov had thought the storage levels would be substantially higher, but this didn't materialize. And this was basically because OPEC cut production of oil, um, and of course, and the U.S. obviously cut production as well. Um, so basically, um, 60 to 80 would return to the trading fleet in the near term um, of those VLCC carriers tied up in floating storage, right? And this is going to happen progressively, not immediately. Um, so this does not look good for the spot rates as more VLCCs come into the market, right? So, um, but however, crude tanker destocking has not caused severe rate pressure. Basically, VLCC rates were 21,900 as Thursday, roughly unchanged from 21,600 a year ago. And then Suezmax rates, of which NAT has just solely Suezmax vessels, the rates were 14,900 per day, not far below what they were a year ago, which was 15,300. Okay, so it's comparable to last year's prices. So of course there was a surge in demand for product tankers to be used in floating storage. We already knew that. Um, and now that of course that destocking of that floating storage occurred much faster than anticipated. Um, and floating product storage peaked at 105 million barrels in May and was down to 45 million barrels last week for Scorpio tankers. Okay. Um, so it just talks about more and more about this, and this is more, I believe, the clean carriers, but we're not interested in that. Um, and basically, um, this is also really interesting because the second point is that less and less new ships are being built, right? So again, once destocking phase is complete, the focus will revert to traditional supply-demand balance. Um, so vessel supply is more of a known quantity. Order books are near historic lows, a positive indicator on future rates. So obviously, if there are less tankers being built, rates can spike because there's less tankers in the market, right? Um, so the past 3 quarters have been the best 3 quarters for VLCC from an earnings perspective, and yet this has not triggered a rush to the shipyards to make more ships, right? To make more VLCC carriers. But in the past it has, right? So here, um, the green line represents VLCC earnings, and as VLCC earnings spike, as you can see in 2008, so has a number of ships represented by the blue bars right there, okay? Uh, and that has also happened in like 2015, 2016. As you can see, the blue bar represents a spike in VLCC ships being made corresponding to their earnings, right? But there has not been a corresponding shift um, in building ships, VLCC ships, but there has been a huge spike in earnings, right? So this is also really, really good. So basically, this reflects a potent mix of structural, regulatory, financial, and environmental factors that will continue to keep new ordering at low levels, right? So again, this is good news for NAT. And I've mentioned this previously in my videos. So um, for both VLCCs and Suezmax, the average age at high levels not seen in 18 years. So basically, if older ships are scrapped and there are not enough new building ships to replace them, rates will rise, assuming demand holds constant, right? And that's just the basic way of uh, of supply and demand, right? So more ships be built to replace the old ones that are being lost. But if ships that are being scrapped outpaces the ones that are being built, of course, this is going to hike up the price or the rates, the spot rates of these oil tanker vessels, right? And so when we look at the actual Q2 results for Scorpio and Euronav, Scorpio Tankers reported its best quarterly results in history on Thursday. And despite this, the share price fell. And of course, the share price is also falling by like 5% just today, right? We look at the 5-day chart, it went from $13 all the way back down to now $12.36, which represents a negative shift of $7%, right? Which is kind of interesting to me. It posted net income of $144 million for the second quarter of 2020, compared with a net loss of close to $30 million in the same period last year. So adjusted earnings of $2.63 per share, which is huge, were well above the consensus estimate of $2.27. So that, again, just huge numbers. Euronav reported net income of $260 million for the second quarter of 2020, compared to a net loss of $38 million in the same period last year. So adjusted earnings were $1.14 per share, matching the consensus estimate. And Euronav is doing pretty well, at least the 5-day chart, only down like 0.3%. I would expect that, Scorpio not to be down so low and Euronav to be up way more, but again, these are how the markets operate. As I said in my previous video, a lot of the good news may already have been priced in. So, I mean, who knows what this means for NAT? I mean, I think they'll have phenomenal earnings, and they'll continue to have phenomenal earnings. And who knows the price that they will have booked their ships out for the third quarter of 2020. So basically, Euronav's spot VLCC fleet earned an average of 81,500 per day in the second quarter of 2020, up from 23,000 per day in second quarter of 2019. So that's huge. That's like a triple in the price. Well, less than triple, but still that's insane for the spot rate of their VLCCs. The company also has close to 50% of its available third quarter days for spot VLCs currently locked in at an average of 60,250 per day. So again, that's still huge. They're going to earn money for some time to come, right? So obviously, given the third quarter rates booked by both Euronav and Scorpio tankers, the floating storage hangover does not appear to be excessively painful, and I totally agree. Although again, I don't know if this is going to affect NAT stock price tremendously when they announce their earnings on August 17th. But again, you never know. I'm pretty optimistic. But again, I just found this article really interesting. I'll link it down in the description. But thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and have a fantastic day, guys.